Yesterday on The View is the daytime talk show on ABC that has really been a bigger and bigger part of the 2020 election. You've seen a lot of the Democratic presidential candidates stop by. You've seen Donald Trump talking about the hosts. They're part of the milieu, so to speak. They talked about the Bernie Warren situation in advance of yesterday's debate. Of course, Bernie Sanders accused of telling Elizabeth Warren that a woman can't win. Bernie denied that during yesterday's debate, and everything went crazy. And the disheartening thing is that they basically, on The View, accepted the story hook, line, and sinker without even questioning the meaning of what Bernie is accused of saying. So I've got a bunch of different clips to play for you here. Other than one example from Joy Behar, which I will get to, this is how these stories spread. CNN reports it Monday. The View talks about it Tuesday, basically not questioning the story. CNN asks about it in their own debate Tuesday night. And now it's a major story in the Democratic primary, which helps merely to prop up the de facto establishment leader, which is Joe Biden. So first of all, let's go to the first clip where they present as a foregone conclusion that Bernie obviously said that a woman can't win.
Warren confirmed rumors that back in 2018, Bernie told her he doesn't think a woman could win the presidency. Bernie denies it, saying he told her that you know who has a sexist, racist, and he's a liar, and he would weaponize anything he could. But he does believe a woman could win, since Hillary beat you know who by 3 million votes last time. So is this going to be a talking point? Is this more drama for the sake of drama? What's happening? The kids are fighting. The mom and dad are fighting. What's happening?
Warren was keeping this in her back pocket, right? She kept the receipts because I think they made the pact when they got together in her apartment saying, look, we have the same message. We got to win this thing, so let's not tear each other apart. And then that happens, and she's like, well, fine. If you're going to play the game, then I'm going to play too.
So here, Abby Huntsman presents it as a fair tit for tat, that Bernie did something and Warren responded. But what did Bernie do? We now know that indeed Bernie in some early states deployed an anti-Warren script attacking Elizabeth Warren for appealing to highly educated elites. You can disagree with the strategy. You can say, well, Bernie and Warren had agreed not to do that and Bernie did it, and that's between them. But that's just normal politics. Accusing Bernie of saying something if he didn't say it is very different. So equating that is unfair. And later on, once again, this idea of surrogates trashing Warren as equivalent.
I think they're a bit different, but what's interesting is that they did have this pact, and they have been friends for a long time. But when she found out that his surrogates were out there, as she said, trashing her, she did come out and say he doesn't think a woman can win. And he's denying it, but I don't doubt that he perhaps said that. I mean, we've had 45 presidents. They've all been men, right? So he may very well think that. But
they'd rather vote for a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack than a woman.
I think that is probably accurate, but they've got to get it together.
So now it's really a mess. Sonny Hostin says, well, once Bernie trashed Warren, Warren came out and said Bernie said a woman can't win. Is that actually what happened? And if so, does Sonny Hostin know about some coordination between Elizabeth Warren and CNN? Because as far as the public-facing narrative goes, CNN ran the story Monday. Warren was asked and confirmed it, but they seem to be suggesting Bernie did A, so Warren did B. Is that actually the way it went down? Because if Warren's involvement is that, we should know that. That's very different than the story that's being told. Bernie is accused here of something that he has denied by CNN. And then Warren had the opportunity to confirm or deny. And she said, yeah, that's the way it went down. It's very coincidental timing right before the debate on CNN. So then in comes Joy Behar with they want to vote for a 78-year-old socialist who had a heart attack instead of a woman, again reinforcing the idea of Bernie followers as sexist. Now, at one point, to her credit, Joy Behar does raise the point of, is it sexist to point out that sexism might prevent a woman from winning? which I've now been saying for 2 days. Check that out.
I have to say, I don't see why this is big news. So two people are in a room.
Because
Well, wait, let me finish my thought, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say. But, like, so people are in a room, and they're talking, and one person says, gee, do you think a woman can win a race in this country? And the other one goes, I don't know about that. I mean, everybody has conversations like that. Why is this a big story?
Well, it was made a big story by ignoring that context. Hey, if I say I doubt a Jewish candidate can win because of anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish bias, that might be true or it might be wrong, but it's certainly not anti-Semitic. If I say I doubt a Muslim candidate can win because of Islamophobia, okay, well, we can debate that, but it's not Islamophobic to point that out. Saying I doubt a woman can win because of sexism and because of attitudes towards women, that is okay to say. And I'm glad Joy Behar brings it up, although it was not the context of the conversation, nor of the conversation during last night's debate. Then Meghan McCain comes in and says, hey, I'm a Republican and sexism is bad, misogyny is bad, Trump's sexism and misogyny are bad, and I don't want another misogynist in the Oval Office, likening Donald Trump to Bernie, which is mind-blowingly crazy. Take a look.
I'm sure I will have my Twitter just lit up on fire because of this, but he has a problem with women, and he has for a long time. And I think if Elizabeth Warren has this in her back pocket, all's fair in politics, all's fair in love and war. And I think, look, I don't want another misogynist as president.
No.
Okay? I mean, I think we're all women in this country are sick of it, and I have always thought he has had a problem with women.
Yeah, we don't want Bernie because we already had misogynist, sexist Trump, and we don't want another one. That's a crazy take. I mean, that is just a straight up unhinged take. So, again, this was the conclusion during our debate analysis, and it once again is the conclusion. All of this narrative started with the CNN article perpetuated by Elizabeth Warren, perpetuated yesterday on The View, and then again last night during the debate with CNN literally after Bernie says, I didn't say it, going to Warren and saying, how did you feel when Bernie said that? Oh, he denied it? Yeah, we're not even going to mention that in asking you the question. It's a complete and total mess, which reinforces the status quo, which is you've got an establishment candidate, Joe Biden, with a plurality of the vote. And the more this becomes a back and forth, oh, maybe Bernie loses a couple points here or gains a couple points or Warren gains, loses a couple. It keeps Joe Biden at roughly 30%. And in a position where he is the most likely person to secure the nomination. That may have been the goal all along.